Hello, this is Justin at the Tech Train here with a slightly longer and more detailed tutorial than usual, but one I think that you'll really enjoy. It's going to show you how you can make some really awesome 3D effects in PowerPoint, really upping your PowerPoint game, showing a way of using PowerPoint that most people haven't seen. It's going to be a longer tutorial, and for that reason I'm going to break it down a little bit. So in the description below will be links to the individual sections of this tutorial so that you can jump straight to whichever part it is that you want to look at yourself. So to get started, having a little look at an example here. I've got an example on the screen right now. The three main areas that we're going to be focusing on are creating 3D images in Blender. Now don't click off. Hold with me, because if you've never used Blender, you don't even know what Blender is, you've never created 3D images or anything like that, don't stop, don't go away, because I promise you I will show you how simple it is. It's not difficult, it won't cost you a penny, and it won't take you more than a few minutes. But I think you'll really enjoy what you end up with at the end. So stay with me, don't let that put you off. Then we're going to be looking at importing and manipulating those images in PowerPoint, and then finally how we can create some really cool effects that allow that image to really look like 3D. As I say, I have an example here on the screen. I've got three quick examples to show you, so bear with me, just have a little look at the idea here. You can see that I've got a 3D shape that we're kind of rotating around, or which is rotating, and then the text appears on each bit. I'm a great believer in having just a few lines on an individual slide, so not having too much in one go. But you see again there, we flipped over that 3D image. You can see it's not just simply panels of colour rolling across the screen. We have a real 3D effect here. Again, rolling it over there. So you get the idea. Now there's different ways in which we can play around with this. So you can see that was the 3D shape. So it's quite simple, it's quite straightforward. But although that's an abstract shape, let me show you a second example here. I work at a school, and this 3D shape is actually a model of my school. I simply use Google Earth. I then took a screenshot of the school from the air and then drew around it. Again, I'll show you how easy it is to do something like that. So here you could easily have, or I could easily have, a PowerPoint presentation with a 3D object which is familiar to the students. So here we're going around the back of the building now. In fact, my classroom is in that particular section. Rolling around again one more time. There we are, some more text, and then we'll pan out and have a look at the whole model. So again, you see it's pretty straightforward. It's not difficult to make that. In fact, you will be able to do this. And if you don't fancy making models, an even simpler option, which again I will show you how to do, is this. Again, we have a flat panel of color. Then we realize that it's a 3D shape. Okay, there's some more text there. Let's pan across, and we realize it's separate 3D shapes now, so we've got more than one, and we've got some curves going on in there as well. And then finally we come round to the last slide and throw some text on there before finally zooming out and realizing that it's the initials of the school that I work for. So there we are, NSG. So that's the idea that we're going to be looking at. Those are the different things that we'll need to do, and I will cover in this tutorial. The first thing that you'll need is to have PowerPoint 2016. So in order for this to work, you will need PowerPoint 2016. I have the Office 365 subscription. So if you have that, great, that's the first thing you need. The only other thing that you need is a free bit of software called Blender. You need to go to blender.org and download it. It's a free download, free software. You won't have to pay a penny for it, but you'll have a lot of fun with it, I expect. So 2016 PowerPoint and Blender, once you've got both of those, you're golden. And so what I'll do now is have a look at how to create a simple 3D shape in Blender. So if you've downloaded Blender, or you had it already and you've opened it, this is what you will see. Now it does look a little bit complicated, I know. If you've never done 3D graphics before, then it will look a little horrendous perhaps, but don't let that put you off. Although it's a free program, Blender is amazingly powerful, and there's a huge range of tools that can be used if you want to do more powerful things with it, and by all means experiment with it. But for the moment, all we're doing is keeping it really, really simple, effective, but simple. And so pretty much everything that you see here, apart from maybe 2 buttons, you can totally ignore. So don't worry about all that complicated stuff. It will actually be really simple. So to begin with then, you see the splash screen on there, just get rid of that. And we see this cube. This is the default object in our 3D modeling environment. If you have a middle button on your mouse, you can hold that down and you can rotate around it. You can see that this is a 3D cube. What we're going to do to begin with is change the view so we're looking down on the cube. The best way of doing this to make sure we're absolutely accurate is to come down to the view menu down here and choose top. Now make sure that it's the upper menu that you're looking at. You'll see there's a second menu down here that also has view on it, but that's for animation. And we're not going to worry about animation for this. So it's this slightly higher level menu that you want. Click on view and go to top. That changes our view, so we're now looking down on our cube. You can still use the middle mouse button and rotate around and explore things, but if ever you want to go back to the top view, just click on view and top. And while we're at it, you can see that there are other ways of looking at your object as well, and you can just switch between those. Now, here's our cube. What we need to do now is change the way we're working with it. There are basically 2 ways of working with a 3D object in Blender. There's object mode, which you can see down here from this little menu, just from the same bar as view. We're in object mode now. This effectively allows us to think of the objects as being a bit like bricks or Lego bricks or something like that, that you can physically pick up and move and join together and so forth. But we want to go into what we call edit mode, and you can see this menu down here allows us to change into edit mode. Alternatively, you can press the tab key on your keyboard, which will do the same thing. And edit mode basically allows us to take the object, take that cube in this case, and twist it, distort it, pull it about, change its shape effectively, and mold it a bit like plasticine. So by tabbing, pressing the tab key, you can switch between those 2 views, and down here you can switch between them as well. The simplest way of thinking about it is if you think of a Lego brick. Object mode is where you're working with Lego bricks. Edit mode is where each Lego brick now becomes plasticine, and you can stretch it, distort it, change it however you like, and then you can switch back into object mode, and now it's gone from plasticine to solid plastic again, but retaining that weird shape. So that's the best way of thinking about these 2 views. So make sure we're in edit mode, and you'll see that this cube goes orange. Orange is the colour of whatever item is selected. So if we had several objects here, the one that we're currently working on will be this peach orange colour. Now what we're going to do now is use a keyboard shortcut. I'll try and keep these fairly simple, but we're going to hold down the Alt key, that's to the left of your spacebar, and press the letter M, and that brings up this menu. This is the merge menu, and what we're basically going to do is take all of the vertices, that's the corners of our shape, and we're going to merge them all together. So if you imagine taking every corner of this cube and pulling them together as though there was a massively powerful bit of elastic in the middle, pulling them all towards the center. So when we click at center, what happens is it appears as though our cube has disappeared. But you'll see right in the middle there is a dot. That is a corner. Just one corner. That's all that's left of our cube, a single dot. But now comes the magic, if you like, because what we're going to do is to extrude that dot. What on earth does extrude mean? Apologies if you know this stuff, but obviously there are a lot of people watching this tutorial who won't know this sort of stuff in 3D modeling. So extruding is where you take something and stretch it out. Again, think of your plasticine perhaps, and just grabbing a part of it and pulling and stretching that out. And that's what we're going to do with this dot. Now there's another keyboard shortcut coming up, but it's just simply the letter E for extrude. So I'm going to press the letter E, and when I do, I've pressed it and let go of that letter E, you'll see that now there's a line following my mouse. I'm not clicking anything, I'm just simply moving my mouse. So I'm not holding down the keyboard, I'm not holding down the mouse, I'm just moving my mouse. So what I've done is basically pulled from this center dot here out into whatever direction I want. And I'm going to click there. So once I click, I've now created that line. But I'm going to press E for extrude again, and you'll see that now from that second dot, a third dot appears, and again I can move my mouse around and click wherever I want. Press E again and click. E, move, click. E, move, click. And you'll see that basically by doing this, by pressing E and then moving and then clicking, we can create what appears to be something like a bow tie here at the moment, but we can create our object. And then I'm going to finish on the same dot as I started, like that, and there we are. We now have a shape. So that is the outline for our shape. Now, of course, you can make that shape look however you like. You could try to make it look like a map, perhaps, an outline of an island. It could be your logo. It could be, as I did, the outline of the school that I work at, the outline of the building. Anything you like. I'll show you how to do that, how to actually do an outline of a building, because you wouldn't have to do it freehand. You can bring in a picture and have it as a background to trace over. But here I've just done an abstract shape, so I suggest the first time you do this, you keep it simple and just do an abstract shape like this. Now, we've finished doing the outline, but obviously what we need to do is to fill it in. And to fill it in, we will need to select each of these corners. What I'm going to do, to select it, you'd normally expect to use the left mouse button. You're probably used to using the left mouse button for selecting things, but in Blender and 3D graphics, it's actually the right mouse button. So what I'm going to do is right click on that dot there, and you'll see it goes orange. Orange is the color of a selected part. And in fact, I can right click on any of these vertices, any of these corners here to select them. I want to select about 4 at the same time. So what I'm going to do is click over here, hold the shift key down, and as I hold the shift key down, I'm going to select another 3 vertices. So you'll see now I've selected this area. And now I want to fill this area. And so I press the letter F for fill, and that fills that area. Now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to select 3 or 4, well, 4 or 5 probably best. So 4 or 5 corners, holding down shift, that create another area. So I'm just basically collecting these 4 dots here, pressing F and filling in that area. Next I'm going to select this dot, and this dot, and fill in that triangle there, like that. And then I'll do this square in the middle, so I'm going to right click on that one, then hold shift down and click on that corner, and that corner. Let go of shift and hold the letter F down to fill that area. Once again, I'm going to right click, hold down shift, and then select 3 or 4 corners over there and press F to fill that area. And I think we can probably do this last area in one go, so I'm going to just select those vertices there and press F. And there we are, we've now filled that area. If I hold the middle mouse button and rotate around, you can see that I have created a flat shape, a flat object, which we can see from both sides, but obviously has no height. We need to change that. So what we need to do now is to extrude again, so to stretch or pull something out. But this time, instead of doing it with the corners, we're going to do it with the faces. So we need to just change an option down here. You'll notice on this same toolbar, this is the only toolbar we've been using so far, on this same toolbar you have 3 little buttons together here that look like our little white cube did at the beginning. This one you'll see has a little dot in the corner, an orange dot, that's for the corners or vertices. This one has a line going along the edge, and that's for selecting edges. And this one here has one face of the cube coloured orange, and that is the Face Select tool. We've been working with corners, but we're now going to switch over to faces. So I've clicked on that button, and you'll see now each face very helpfully has a black dot in it so that we can see where all the faces are. If I right click on one of those faces, then you can see I select that face, and I can select, oops, didn't mean to do that. I can select any of these faces just by right clicking on them. But again, we want to select all of the faces, the whole object. So we do the same thing as we did before with the corners. We right click on any one of the faces, hold down Shift, and then right click on all of the other faces. So we have selected all of our shape now. Now I'm going to use the middle mouse button to just roll around so I can see this object more conveniently, because I want to just look at the height now of this object and see how high this object gets, because with all the faces selected I can now use that E for extrude, and you'll see I can now pull those faces up or down. I'm going to go up, and again it's entirely up to you how high you go. The ones I showed you in the introduction at the beginning there were about that height, something like that, but it really is entirely up to you. I'm going to choose there and click once, and that's it. We've now selected and extruded our faces upwards, so we have a proper full 3D shape. And if you've never done 3D graphics before and you've achieved that, then you'll probably have some sense of satisfaction. I certainly hope that you do. If this was your first venture in 3D graphics and you've managed to achieve this, then well done. That's really, really good. So, and if that is your first time and it worked, then please do leave a comment below and let me know. It'd be awesome to know that. Now, there's one more thing we're going to do, and that is to colour it, but we're now finished in edit mode, so we're going to switch back to object mode so that we can see our object more clearly. And without all the faces selected and everything, you can see it looks more like a solid object, more like a Lego brick perhaps now. What we're going to do then with this object selected is to come over to the right hand side. Now there's an awful lot going on here, and you can ignore everything apart from one button. And along here you'll see this row of little buttons. There's a camera near the beginning, and then we've got a couple that looks like a little earth there, and a cube and a chain and a spanner. Keep going until you get to this little one here, which looks like a browny gold coloured sphere. And we see if you hover over that, it says material. We're going to choose that, and that just simply opens up this tab. And underneath this plain white sphere, you'll see this white box that says diffuse. Just click in that white box anywhere, and you'll see a color palette, and you can now drag around within that color palette and choose whatever color you want. Let's go for a hot pink, shall we there? So I'm going to go for that pinky colour, and there we are. We've now coloured our object as well. Now there's far more tools available. You could have individual parts of it coloured. We can chop parts out. If you're really interested in learning a little bit more about Blender and you'd like me to do a few Blender tutorials, then please do leave a comment below and let me know. And if enough people do comment that they'd like to see more Blender tutorials, I'll be more than happy to do them. So once we've done that, we've finished modelling it. All we need to do now is to save it in such a way that we can get that into PowerPoint. So at the top left, click on File, and rather than going to Save or Save As, which you can do, but that will just save it as a Blender project, we're going to go to Export. So it's File, Export, and what you're looking for is the wavefront.obj. .obj. So that's the format we're going to use. So wavefront.obj. Click on that, and then we'll select that. I'm going to put it on the desktop, and I'm going to call that example. There we are. And then on the right hand side, export obj. So you just choose the location, choose the name, and then click export on the right hand side, and there we are. That has now exported. So the thing to do now is to go into PowerPoint. Let me do a new PowerPoint presentation here. So I'm going to change the layout to blank, And what I'm going to do is click on Insert, and in the Insert menu you'll see that just along here you have 3D models, and we're going to choose from a file, and we're going to choose that model, and there we are. We have that model inside PowerPoint. You've got you can click and move it around just as you would any shape, but you'll see that there's this weird symbol in the middle. It's a rotate symbol, and if you click on that, you can see that you can literally rotate and explore that object right within PowerPoint. So we're not in Blender anymore, we're in PowerPoint, and that is a real 3D object. You can see how it's even catching the light and reflecting, and that is pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do now is to show you how we can change the views and animate this in such a way that it will look really, really good for our presentation. So to animate our object now that it's inside PowerPoint, what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to make this object a lot bigger. While I'm stretching it, while I'm increasing the size, I'm holding down Shift just to make sure that I don't distort my image and I keep its proportions relative. And what I'm going to do is just stretch that out so that it's sort of covering up quite a bit of the screen, but we have a little bit at the top and the bottom. And in fact, what I'm probably going to do now is just change the background a little bit, just so it'll stand out a little bit better. So let's just format the background and put a bit of a gradient in there like that, perhaps, just so that we can see the contrast a little bit better with our pale pink shape. So I'm going to bring it up like that. There we are, zoom in a bit. And there's my first slide. You can see the thumbnail on the left hand side, what that would look like, and I'm imagining putting the text probably over this middle panel here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the thumbnail on the left here, and either right click and duplicate slide, or press Ctrl D for duplicate. And with this duplicated slide, I'm now going to click on my shape and rotate it. I'm just going to rotate it this way first of all, so that it more or less covers up the screen. Just maybe increase that in height up there. There we are. So that's my second slide. I'm now going to again duplicate that slide, and I'm going to change this again. I'm going to rotate it round once more like that and just line it up, something like that. And then finally I'm going to duplicate it one more time, and this time I'm going to reduce the size of it, and I'm going to rotate it so it looks like a full proper 3D image, and put that right in the middle. Now this comes the really cool bit. I love this bit now. So what I'm going to do is click and select. I'm going to click on the first one, hold down Shift again, click on the last slide in our presentation, so they're all selected, and I'm going to go up to transitions. And in PowerPoint 2016 you have this really awesome transition called Morph. I have done a presentation, a video tutorial rather, using the Morph tool in PowerPoint before, but it really is a fantastic tool. So we're going to use Morph, and I'm just going to slow it down. Duration's 2 seconds at the moment. I'm going to increase that to 4 seconds. And now let's have a look at our presentation. So there is my first slide. Now what I'm going to do is click to go to the second slide, and how awesome is that? The Morph transition actually moves the 3D shape so that the 3D shape is rotating. I'll go on to the next slide, and there we are. Again, that 3D shape rotates around, and then we'll go on to the next slide, and you can see that 3D shape zooming out. It actually works backwards as well. So if I go backwards through the presentation, we can actually see that animation going the other way as well. So it is a full sort of way of exploring this 3D shape, going backwards and forwards. It's a really fantastic feature that in PowerPoint 2016. The ability to embed a 3D object and then to animate it using Morph. It's great fun, and when you combine that with the power of Blender and you can create your own objects and images, then it becomes really, really fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is go back over to Blender and show you how you can create an object that is the same, or has the same outline as, say, a building or something. So you'll see this one here, where I have the outline of the school that I work at. I'm going to show you how I created that. And I'm also going to show you how you can create 3D text and animate that in the same way. So if you would like to stop and go over and play with Blender and stick with these sort of abstract images, that's absolutely fine. But if you would like to come back, again, in the comments section below, what I'll do is leave shortcut links to the parts of the video that cover drawing around an outline for a logo or building, whatever, and doing text. So if you've really enjoyed this but you're leaving me now, then that's fine, I'll forgive you, as long as you leave a comment below. Let me know how you got on with this. Please leave a like, and of course if you haven't subscribed, do so now. And if you'd like to see more Blender videos, as I say, just let me know in the comments section below. So if you're still with me and we're going to look at how to do an outline of a building, then what you'll need to do first of all is have a picture of whatever it is you're wanting to draw an outline of. If it's a logo, that's fine, use a logo. If it's going to be a building like this one here, then use Google Earth or something, or a map, and just take a screenshot of that Google Earth image or of that map so that you have that image ready. If you've got that screenshot of your logo or your building and you've got Blender ready to go, then I'll join you in just a second. So what I'm going to do now is to show you how I would create a 3D representation of a building by using Google Earth and the building that I work at. So what I'm going to do is zoom in on that building, and I'm going to look right down on the building so get a really good zoomed in view of the building. I'm just going to do this main block here. So there we are. I'm going to set it up like that, and then I'm going to use the snipping tool just to create a snapshot of the building like that. Next I'm going to save that, just put that on the desktop, and I'll call that school. There we go. Save that and switch over to Blender. What we need to do now is to open up a new panel. I know there's enough buttons and menus here anyway, but we are going to have to briefly open up another panel just to get the image in. The image won't actually form part of the final image, it's just simply a guide for us to trace over. So what we need to do is to bring up this panel that you'll see appearing on the right hand side. To do that, you just press the letter N, that's N for November. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't seem to do anything, it's probably because your mouse is hovering over another part of the screen. I'm pressing the letter N now and it's not doing anything. Your mouse does have to be in the work area here, and it opens up this panel on the right. Now it looks complicated, there's tons of stuff in there, but actually it's all just simply drop down menus or drop down panels that have been expanded. So if you close them all up, you'll see it doesn't look so terrifying. You'll also see that there's a pretty obvious one that we're looking for, background images. So we'll just expand that one and we'll put a tick in the box there to say that we want this to be shown. I'm going to click add image and then click open and find the image, there we are, that I just saved, school. So double click that, and what do you know, it doesn't show. It doesn't show in 3D view, that's why. So we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, just because I don't like a cluttered screen, I'm going to press N again to get rid of that panel on the right. And what you need to do now is use the number pad on the right hand side of your keyboard and press the combination 157. 157. So we're looking now down on top of the picture from the top, as we were in the first tutorial in fact, and that will make sure that we can see our background image as well. So now we've got our background image, the thing to do now is to, as we did before, change the mode that we're working on with this cube into object mode, into edit mode. We're in object mode now. I'm going to press tab, and that has now put me into edit mode, as you can see down here. Doesn't matter whether you use this menu or press tab, but it's up to you. Anyway, now this cube is selected, I'm going to press Alt M to bring up the merge menu and click at center, which has now compressed our cube into a single point. Now what I'm going to do is we probably actually want to move that point, so I'm going to use these arrows. You can see the red and green arrow. I'm going to click on an arrow and drag that arrow along and drag the green one up, so we're on a corner of the building. Now I'm not going to take ages doing this, I'm going to keep it quite rough, so excuse me if I miss a few little windows and interesting jutty out bits. I'm going to do a very rough one here just so that you can see the idea. You're probably already working it out now anyway, I imagine. So the thing to do is to use the E for extrude and simply click and then click again, and then I'll come in a little bit. So all I'm doing, as I did in the first section, is I'm pressing E, which allows me to extrude that dot. You can see it following my mouse along. Put it where I want the next corner of the shape to be and click, and then press E again to extrude, and then wait till it be in the right place and click. So it's E, drag, click, E, drag, click, E, drag, click, and so on. So I shall now very, very roughly go around the area here. So over to there, then along and down the maths area, along there. There we go, and around there. This is probably now the world's most boring narration, but hopefully if you're still with me, you're interested in doing all this sort of stuff. And of course the exact same process would apply if you were doing it around a logo or something like that. It's quite a good quick way of creating a 3D representation of a logo or something. Just bring the image in the same way. And there we are. A little wonky, it's not brilliant, but you get the idea. We can now actually press the letter N, and where we've got the background images ticked, we can untick that now. As we've got our outline, that's fine. So once we've done that, the next stage is to fill it in as we did before. So we're still in edit mode, and you'll see that down here I'm in the vertice mode, vertex select there. So I'm still selecting corners, and what I'm going to do is right click. Remember, it's right click that selects. So I'm going to right click on a corner and then hold down shift so that I can select about 3 or 4 or so, just basically to select an area that I can then fill. And to fill, it's just the letter F. So I've then filled that area. I'm then going to spot that square there and fill that. And then I'm going to go around and select all of these corners and fill that wing. And then just simply go around. If you make a mistake, you can undo. It's not the end of the world. But I suggest that you practice this and experiment a little bit, getting the idea of 3D graphics. If this is your first time doing 3D graphics, then it might be a little overwhelming, but you're probably quite surprised at how quick it is really to get started on something that for many people will look very impressive indeed. So there we are, just filling that section in, and then we'll start finally over here. So the techniques, as you can see, are pretty much the same across the board. So whether you're doing an abstract shape or you're doing something like a building or a logo, once you've got the basic idea of creating an outline and then extruding that outline, you can probably imagine quite a lot of different ways in which you could use those tools and techniques. So once we've now filled in that, we need to now switch over to face select. So remember, we've been using the vertices now. We need to come down to these 3 little buttons down here, the 3 little cubes. Click on the one with an orange face so that we've selected the faces, and you can see that each face has a dot, so we can see how many that we've got. I'm going to right click on, let's choose this one over here, you can see that selected more clearly. Going to right click on that and then hold down shift so that I can select all of the faces of my shape like that. And once I've done that, I tend to use the middle mouse button now so that I can come down and have a look at the shape and I can see it more effectively, because what we're going to do now is extrude. So again, it's just the letter E for extrude, and I can now raise that up to whatever height that building is. In fact, it's probably proportionally something like that. Going to click, and there we are. We now have a 3D model of, in this case, my school. The next thing to do is to come out of edit mode and switch back to object mode so that we can see this object and color it. And it doesn't really matter what color. I mean, I'm not in this tutorial obviously going to cover how to actually get brick textures and stuff onto a building. We'll keep it just quite simple. But to color it generally, come over to the right hand side of this row of icons along the top, find the bronze colored sphere, click on that, and then down underneath the white sphere click in the diffuse box and just choose whatever color would be appropriate. My school colors tend to be purple, green and white, so I'm going to go for a purple color like that. That'll do fine. So once I've done that, once I've colored it, we need to go up to File and Export. So I'm going to click on Export and make sure you choose the wavefront.obj as your method, your format. So let me just now rename this. I'm going to save this as building, and then on the right hand side click Export OBJ. There we are. So now if I go into PowerPoint, I'll go into a new presentation, create a blank slide. Tend to like having a bit of a background against this, and then I'm going to insert 3D model from a file, and there's my building, and there it is. There's my building, my school, right there in PowerPoint. So again, what I would do is I would zoom out and I would create a nice big representation of this to begin with. That would be my slide 1. I would duplicate that. I'm going quite quickly now because I have already covered this earlier on. So there we are. Do one more, and this time I'll just zoom out of the whole building. So there we are. That's the whole building there. Have it something like that in the middle. And then by selecting all of my slides and going to transitions, morph, and just increasing the time. If I'm rushing now and going a bit too quickly, then maybe you skipped a little earlier on. So you might want to go back and just recap on how to actually do what I've just done there. But if you're with me, then you'll see that now we have a close-up of one part of the building. And then if we scroll through to the next slide, you can see how that building rotates around. We can see another side, another wall of that building. And then finally go on to the next slide and we zoom out of the building. And again, we can go in and around and explore that building from all sides. So that's how to create a 3D model of a building or a logo for PowerPoint and for editing within PowerPoint. The final part of this tutorial now will be how to put text into Blender and make that 3D, and then how to animate that in PowerPoint as well. So again, if you've stuck with me right through till now, well done, and please leave a comment. Let me know how you're getting on. Maybe share the file with me. I'd love to see what you've done. That'd be really, really awesome. But I'm now going to switch over to the last part on letters, so either stick with me, or if you're going, thank you very much indeed for watching so far. Do please leave a comment, do leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe, and let me know if you'd like more Blender videos. So now let's have a look at text in Blender. So welcome to the last part of this tutorial. If you've managed to make it this far and you've watched the whole thing, well done. I think we're up to about 40 minutes now. It is much, much longer than my usual tutorials, but I wanted to do something that was a bit more advanced, a bit more in depth, and a bit different to the sort of things that I've done before. If you're enjoying this and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do let me know. What we're going to do now then is have a look at how to create text, three-dimensional text in Blender that we can then transport across to PowerPoint. So I've got a new Blender file here. We've got our cube, but we actually want to get rid of it now. So with our mouse in this work area, I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. This brings up the menu. Do I want to delete it? Yes, I do. Click on delete. I'm now going to switch to the top view, so that's view top, or you can use the number pad 7 on your number pad if you prefer. So once I'm in top view, what I want to do is to come onto the left hand side, and you'll see there are some tabs down the left hand side here. We've been in the tools tab the whole time. We haven't actually used those tools, we haven't used anything here, but we're going to come down to the second tab, which is create, and this is where we can create various shapes or parts of shapes or lights and other parts of our modeling world. We're going to come down to just text, so you'll see underneath all of these shapes and curves and lights we have this other category, and this top option here says text. So I click on text and it brings up the word text. You can't edit it, you can't do anything with it. Seems a little useless. But remember that Blender has two modes of working. We're in object mode, which is where we can physically move the thing around. And if we want to edit it, we need to go into edit mode. So we click on edit mode and you'll see now it's just plain text with a little cursor even that shows me where I'm typing. So I'm going to retype out whatever it is that I want to have. Once I've done that, I can come back out of edit mode into object mode, and there we are. We've now got our text. Of course, the problem is that it's now completely flat. You can see it has no height to it. So as we have with the various shapes before, we want to extrude that shape. So if we want to extrude the shape, on the toolbar here, we've been using texture, the material here, up till now, but just to the left of that is the letter F for text. Well, it's not really, but if we click on the letter F, you can see that we can now change some of the things to do with text. And what you're looking for is this geometry section here with extrude. There's our old friend extrude again. Now you can click somewhere in this little text box or whatever here and hold the mouse button down, and as you hold the mouse button down and drag, you'll see that your text becomes taller and you can extrude it. I'm going to extrude it to about there, and you'll see now if I let go, I have my three-dimensional text that I can whiz around. There we are. We've now got three-dimensional text that we can use. I might want to color this text, so just as we have done before, making sure we're in object mode, we're going to go up to the materials tab there, just next to the text tools we've just used. This might look slightly different to before you had the big white sphere. Don't worry, just click on this new button here and it'll all be back to where you saw it in the previous methods. So there's our white sphere, there's our diffuse button. Just click on that and choose a suitable color. There we are. I'm going to choose a blue color like that, and that'll do. Once we've colored it, we can now export it. So we go to File, Export, and wavefront.obj as before. Let's go to the desktop and I'll just call this text. And then on the right hand side, click Export. And there we are, done. Let's go back into PowerPoint, new presentation. I'll just change the background. I'm doing all this from scratch so that you can see exactly how I'm doing it from step by step. So insert 3D models from a file. Let's find our text. There it is. Double click it, and there we are. We've now got our three-dimensional text, a little bit big, three-dimensional text inside PowerPoint. There we are. And we can edit this and we can play around with it as much as we like. So what I would do is I would zoom out, as this is quite long text now, move it to where I want, and perhaps just angle it so that it's across the whole of the about the whole of the slide. So there, make it a little bit taller, something like that. That would be my first slide. Then I'm going to duplicate that slide and rotate this around for my next slide, and then just move it across so it covers the whole of the slide. Of course, you could also make YouTube video entries, video intros or something as well, or a three-dimensional intro with music for your own PowerPoint presentation. Rather than being the presentation, this could simply be the introduction, and quite a cool introduction as well. But I'm sure your imagination will be thinking of all sorts of different cool ways in which you can use this method. So there we are. I'm going to put that into the middle like that, and then I'm going to select all three of these slides, go to Transitions, Morph, bump it up to 4 seconds. I like to have about 4 seconds, otherwise it's a bit sort of rushed. I think if it's too quick, then the audience won't even realize that you are rotating the object around. It just flashes by so quickly. So you want to slow it down so they can appreciate the fact that you are actually moving around a single three-dimensional object. So there we are, first slide, and then into our second slide. Of course, your audience will have no idea what they're looking at, just looks like some cool random 3D shapes. And then of course you zoom out and show that you have the title. And as I say, as before, you can always go backwards and forwards. The Morph tool works in both directions. So there we are. So that was a significantly longer tutorial than normal. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found that useful or interesting and you managed to do that, then please do leave me a comment below. I'd love to know how you got on with this. If you've managed to get something that's really, really awesome, let me know. Tell me about it. What did the people think that you showed it to? Can you share a picture or share the file with us? That'd be awesome. If you'd like to have more information about Blender and you'd like me to do more tutorials, again, please do let me know. Put it in the comments below and tell me you know, what sort of thing you'd like to see in future. Please give this video a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. If you haven't subscribed already, do please click on the little subscribe button and the bell, of course, next to it, so that you're notified when I upload a new video. Again, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.